Hey up everyone, Rich here at Only Vans. In this video we're going to take you through the highs and the lows of a Caravanning seasonal pitch. Now what I want you to do, for everyone that's had a seasonal pitch, if you could just pop yes in the comments below. And for those of you that haven't had a seasonal pitch before, if you click the link below you can get your hands on our free pre-travel caravan checklist. So I started caravan and camping and trailer tenting around about 10 years ago. So it all started when my sister and my brother-in-law bought an old Contiki motorhome. So they used to go away all the time, and I used to get really bad FOMO and fear of missing out. So I went and bought myself a really cheap tent. Now, from doing that, you know, they used to go away a lot. So my brother had some camping stuff that he didn't want anymore, so I went and bought myself from him an Air 6, an Air Horizon 6 Air Beam tent. I bought all his camping stuff off of me. I had an inflatable sofa, he had an airbed that was about a foot off the floor, and I think at that moment that was one of the things which really rekindled my love of caravanning and camping. So I used to go away a lot with my dad. When I was younger, he always had caravans, and my nan and granddad, his mum and dad, they always used to have their trailer tents. They also had a caravan, but they had a static as well, impressed at him. So I'd always done caravanning from a relatively young age, but obviously when you get a bit older and all that sort of stuff, you almost stop doing it, you almost fall out of love with it a little bit. But I think the moment I got that tent and I could see all the bits that came with it and all that sort of stuff, it, you know, had electric hookup, it had tables, and it was not what I always thought that camping was or should be. Problem with that, as people will know, we've got big tent setups, is that it's an absolute nightmare setting it up 2 or 3 hours, an absolute nightmare taking it down 2 or 3 hours. And the moment I'd set it up and everything was done and tidy and straight, I'd sit outside the front, I'd open myself a drink, I'd have a swig, and I'd think, sorted. But then instantly, after that first swig of beer, I'd be thinking, oh my god, I've got to take all this down again on Sunday. Or, you know, I hope it doesn't rain, or checking the weather forecast to see if it's going to rain and what time the rain starts or what time the rain finishes. It's always in the back of my mind. So I thought, you know, this 2 or 3 hours, I'm quite lazy, but 2 or 3 hours in the morning setting it up, and 2 or 3 hours in an evening taking it down, I just wasn't prepared to do it anymore. It would just stressed me out too much. So someone mentioned trailer tents to me. So in terms of trailer tents, I just assumed, because what my nan and granddad had was simply just a trailer that had 2 beds that folded out. But after a bit of, you know, nagging, I went to a place called Camplands, just on the M60, or junction between the M60 and the M56. And I went and walked around this corner, and on my left hand side, the most amazing Conway Cruiser 2008 trailer tent that you'd ever seen. It was green and white, and it had the front panel off the side, and the beds folded out, and it had the kitchen made up and the sink made up. And compared to what I'd had before, to see that and being able to tow it on my Ford Focus, which was a problem for me because I didn't want to go and get a caravan at that point and then have to go and get a new car, because it then becomes a massive investment of a caravan and a car. But to see that trailer tent up, all bright and new newish looking new carpets anyway, and being able to tow that and being able to go away camping and travelling for 365 days a year, it was the most amazing thing. And I absolutely love trailer tents. They'll always hold a special place in my heart because that Conway Cruiser was absolutely incredible. But as before, you know, what used to take me 45 minutes up and 45 minutes down, eventually you got the same sort of feeling again. It was like, oh goodness, you know, especially having spent so much on my trailer tent, thinking, well, what happens if I put it away wet, or, you know, where am I going to open it up to dry it off because I didn't have a driveway. So the whole trailer tent thing was amazing, to a point where I thought to myself, got to set it up. And it wasn't the getting the beds out that was a difficult part, or putting the poles up. It was putting the inner bits up and the curtains and all that sort of stuff. So obviously my instant on the M5 towing, I think from that point then I'd made a decision. I didn't really want to have to accept really, but I'd made a decision that I just wasn't prepared to sort of tow anymore really. Well, obviously I continued towing, but it stressed me out. Like a couple of days before, especially if I was towing from Stoke to Devon or Stoke to Newquay, if it was a big tow, it would really, really, really affect me. It'd really stress me out because you're always worrying. You can't settle, always worrying what if this happens, what if happens, especially with the madness that is the smart motorways now when there's no lay-by. I always used to think to myself, if something goes wrong here, what do I do? How am I going to get my partner out of the car, or how am I going to get Isabella out of the car? So it really did affect me. So for a little while before that, I'd been putting my name down on waiting lists for seasonal pitches for Caravan sites. So we got the phone call, we got the nod at the back end of December last year, actually when we were away, saying our number had been called as such. So it was that point, it was Operation Go and Find a Caravan. So we wanted something that we didn't have to tow, but having something that was set up, ready-made, ready to go all the time was really, really important to us. So the highs of a seasonal pitch then. So like I've just mentioned there's no packing away. So, on a Sunday afternoon, once you've had your dinner or had your tea or whatever, all you do, turn your lights off, lock your doors, shut your awning, and away you go. There's no packing away, there's no setting up. You leave it, you come back, and it's ready to go straight away. And for me, that is absolutely crucial. We're fortunate, so we're on a 365-day season. So what that means is it means that our caravan is on this pitch now for the next 365 days. So what we don't have to worry about is we don't have to worry about never being able to get a nice pitch on a nice site for the big events. So your Easter weekends, your bank holidays, your Jubilees, your Christmases, your New Year's, and all that sort of stuff. We don't have to worry about that because our caravan is here all the time. So that is really, 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 really useful because you're not having to worry about, I can't get on there, or I want to go away with a handful of people and we can't all get on it and all that sort of stuff. We don't worry about that. The cost of fuel now is absolutely horrific. So I think somewhere this morning it's over £2 a litre now for diesel. And one of the joys of this is that the only diesel that we spend is travelling to and from the van whenever we're not here. So we don't have to worry about the price of towing and MPGs and all that sort of stuff. Or for those of you that have ever towed to Newquay, hills like that, we don't have to worry about anything like that. And for those of you that don't have the luxury of a driveway, we don't have to pay to store our van somewhere. Obviously because it's here all the time, we don't have to pay storage. So that's another big thing, because like I say, not everyone, people that have got terraced houses or people that don't have driveways, or they've got a couple of cars or whatever, they don't want to park on the road. So essentially our pitch is our storage. Now to look at the lows of seasonal pitches, because it's not all a world of candy floss and lollipops. So let's have a look at them now. So if it's not a 365-day season, then obviously in the close season, you've got to worry about your storage and all that sort of stuff, and putting your caravan away, winterising it and all that sort of stuff. So we put our van up and our awning up on the 15th of January. So our awning will stay up all year round. Now, when the weather is bad, it is quite stressful. So obviously when we had those 3 named storms in a week, every time my phone rang, I was terrified, thinking it was going to be the campsite telling me that my awning was halfway down the M56 or it had already gone over the top of my caravan or whatever. It is really quite stressful. And because you might be leaving your caravan side for days, weeks, months, if something goes wrong, it tends to be a big job. So we had an incident a little while ago where we'd been away for a few days and we came back, and because we hadn't put the front panel of the awning back on, it had dragged all the rainwater onto the carpet and on top of the waterproof membrane that we've got underneath the floor. So if we'd have been gone away for a month, 2 months, the carpets would have been a write-off. But because we'd only been away for a few days and then we came back, it was obviously not an easy thing to sort out, but we could limit the damage massively by hanging them out to help them dry off and mop down the waterproof flooring and all that sort of stuff. I spoke to someone recently who had a water tank on board their caravan, and that had exploded whilst they were away. So the caravan floor was sodden for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So if something does go wrong, it tends to be a big job. But despite all of those things that I've just mentioned there, the worst thing about a seasonal pitch, in my opinion, is not touring. So, you know, when we set ours up in January, when we set ours up, you know, in sort of winter time and early spring and stuff like that, not many people are touring, so you don't miss it. But we went to a campsite a little while ago to my sister and my brother-in-law because it was his birthday. So we went down there, and all the things that I'd moaned about before, from my tent and my trailer tent, I kind of missed them. I suppose that's us as human beings, really, is that when we've got something, we moan, and when we haven't got it, we moan. But I missed going somewhere new for the first time and having an adventure and having a look around and discovering new things. I hadn't felt that. It was the first time I'd really felt it last year. So I think next year we're going to look into how we can incorporate some ability to tour, be that a tent or be that a camper van or something like that, because I really, it made me realise last time just exactly how much I'd missed touring. And I suppose it's the touring part that provides you with that sense of freedom. And, driving away, I just thought, I've quite missed that. Another thing as well with your seasonal pitch is, some people might worry about security. So we're quite lucky here. The security is really good, CCTV barriers. But if security is something that you're worried about, watch this video here.